Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Ruttamaśloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Svapadantikam Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा रीडिंग फ्रॉम श्रीमद् भागवतम by his divine grace AC Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We are reading from Canto 3 chapter 9 Brahma's prayers for creative energy. And we are here in the section where Lord Brahma is praying for empowerment for the creation. So we come to text 18. Yasmad bibemi ahamapi dviparabdadikshnyam adhyasita sakalaloka namaskritam yat tepe tapo bahusavor अवरुरुत्सन्मानस् तस्मै नमो भगवते अधिमखाय तुभ्यम् Translation.
Your Lordship, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you who are indefatigable time and the enjoyer of all sacrifices. Although I am situated in an abode which will continue to exist for a time duration of two paradhas, although I am the leader of all other planets in the universe, and although I have undergone many years of penance for self realization, still I offer my respects unto you. Purport: Brahma is the greatest personality in the universe because he has the longest duration of life. He is the most respectable personality because of his penance, influence, prestige, etc. And still, he has to offer his respectful obeisances unto the Lord. Therefore, it is incumbent upon all others who are far below the standard of Brahma to do as he did and offer respects as a matter of duty. Hare Krishna.
So here Brahmaji says, O my dear Lord, you are indefatigable time and enjoyer of all the sacrifices. And now I offer obeisances unto you. And just for the introduction, that who is offering obeisances to the Supreme Lord, he says, I am in the abode where I live for the two parardhas, or here one can see Prabhupada word to word translation. You can see here dviparardha. Prabhupada gives the translation. Here the calculation of Brahma's lifespan, solar years, 4,30,000 years into 10 into 2 into 30 into 12 into 10. Right. So this is the calculation of dviparardha. So this is the lifespan that Brahma has, and then he is the leader of all the planets, all other planets in the universe, and undergone tremendous austerity. And still Brahmaji says, I am offering obeisances unto you. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, Brahma is the greatest personality in the universe. May it is the all the Aishwaryasya, if it is a life, Brahma is the greatest. Demigods come and go. 14 sets of demigods come and go in one day of Brahma. That is life of Brahma. Because demigods generally last for one manvantara, and there are 14 manus. They are changed within one day of Brahma. So, Brahmaji is the greatest personality with the longest duration, highest intelligence. In terms of the penance, prestige, and influence, There is nobody within the universe compared to Lord Brahma. And here Brahmaji is offering obeisances unto the Lord and indicating that everybody within the universe, it is who is far, far below than the level of Brahmaji, is must to offer obeisances unto the Supreme Lord. So this is Brahmaji's prayer with grace and style, that I am so great and I am offering obeisances to you, my Lord. Not to speak of all the praja who is going to come after me, they must offer their obeisances unto you. Text 19. Now, who all should offer? तिर्यग् मनुष्य विबुधादिषु जेव योनि आत्मच्छया आत्मकृत सेतु परिप्सया यः रेमे निरस्त विषया अपि अवरुद्ध देह तस्मै नमो भगवते पुरुषोत्तमाय. Translation.
O my Lord, by your own will, you appear in the various species of living entities, among animals lower than human beings, as well as among the demigods, to perform your transcendental pastimes. You are not affected by material contamination. You come just to fulfill the obligations of your own principles of religion. And therefore, O Supreme Personality, I offer my obeisances unto you for manifesting such different forms. Purport. The Lord's incarnations in different species of life are all transcendental. He appears as a human being in his incarnations of Krishna, Rama, etc. But he is not a human being. Anyone who mistakes him for an ordinary human being is certainly not a very intelligent, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9.11. Avajananti mamudha manushim tanum ashritam. The same principle is applicable when he appears as the hog or fish incarnations. They are transcendental forms of Lord and are manifested under certain necessities of his own pleasure and pastimes. Such manifestations of the transcendental forms of the Lord are accepted by him mostly to enliven his devotees. All his incarnations are manifested whenever there is a need to deliver his devotees and maintain his own principles.
So Brahmaji says, you appear in different forms. Rama, the Murti Shvara. So there are forms which are like Matsya, Varaha, Kurma. These are apparently subhuman species form. There are the human forms like Ramakrishna, or one can say, and there are forms which are the mixed like Narasimha, and there are forms which appear in the demigod planet, that is Vamana, so on and so forth. But all these forms are transcendental. So forms are transcendental. The pastime the Lord performs within the form, they are also transcendental. And the Lord is never affected by material contamination. The Lord comes to establish principles of religion, his own principle, and therefore I am offering obeisances unto you. So here he is offering obeisances to the master of all and master of many forms, right? In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, Lord's incarnations in the different species are all transcendental. It is not that only the Lord comes as Rama and Krishna, but when he comes as Rama and Krishna, he is not an ordinary human being. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He may perform some activities just to attract the attention of the conditioned soul. And therefore, one should never mistake the Supreme Lord as ordinary person. Avajananti mam mudha manushim tanum ashritaha. Manushim tanum, when I take human-like form, fools deride me. Avajananti mam mudha. So generally, a conditioned soul makes one of these two mistakes. The one mistake is when the Lord comes, they may accept the Lord as an ordinary person. And sometimes they may accept some ordinary person, some Baba, Bua, Amma, this, that, as the Supreme Lord. So these are two fatal mistakes in understanding the Tattva of the Lord. So this is about the when the Lord is coming like human-like form. When he comes in other forms, especially Matsya, Kurma, and then people they are Varaha form. People feel, oh, Varaha, how Varaha, pig. No, Varaha form is as transcendental as form of Lord Rama. Later we'll read when Lord Varaha comes, appears, and he simply jumps from the Brahmaloka to the Garbhodak ocean to revive the Mother Earth. The water of the Garbhodak, because of that huge jump, flows across the universe and touches the personalities who are sitting in meditation, and they feel extreme enlivened by that touch of the water which is jumped by Varahadev. So, form of the Lord, may it be Kurma, Matsya, Varaha, is as transcendental as form of the Lord as Rama, Krishna, and Balaram. Right? They come for their own pleasure and pastimes. Of course, recently now, because there is a newer revival in the Vedic culture and understanding, there is slightly more acceptance. There was a movie on this form of the Lord, the Varaha. What is that? I think Kantara or something like that, where this where the hero takes the form of this kind of a form, and I don't know the movie, but some posters were like that. So all these forms are to enliven his devotees. Like for Prahalad, the Lord comes as Narasimha, right? For Satyavrat Muni, Lord comes as Matsya, so on and so forth. So this is to deliver his devotees and to maintain his own principles. What are the principles? Dharma samstharpanathaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So, these are the principles, and that's why the Supreme Lord appears in various forms. Text 20. यो विद्यया अनुपहतोऽपि दशार्धवृत्त्या निद्रामुवाह जठरीकृतलोकयात्रा अन्तज्जले अहिकपीषु स्पर्श अनुकूलानां भीम ऊर्मिमिलनि जननस्य सुख सुखं वृषन् वृवन्वन्. Translation.
Translation: My Lord, you accept the pleasure of sleeping in the water of devastation, where there are violent waves, and you enjoy pleasure on the bed of snakes, showing the happiness of your sleep to intelligent persons. At that time, all the universal planets are stationed within your abdomen. Purport: Persons who cannot think of anything beyond the limit of their own power are like frogs in a well who cannot imagine the length and breadth of the great Pacific Ocean. Such people take it as legendary when they hear that the Supreme Lord is lying on his bed within the great ocean of the universe. They are surprised that one can lie down within water and sleep very happily. But a little intelligence can mitigate this foolish astonishment. There are many living entities within the bed of the ocean who also enjoy the material bodily activities of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. If such insignificant living entities can enjoy life within the water, why can't the Supreme Lord, who is all powerful, sleep on the cool body of a serpent and enjoy in the turmoil of violent ocean waves? The distinction of the Lord is that his activities are all transcendental and he is able to do anything and everything without being deterred by limitations of time and space. He can enjoy his transcendental happiness regardless of material considerations. Hare Krishna.
So here, Brahmaji offering very beautiful prayer. He's saying, my dear Lord, your sleep is so amazing. What is amazing in the sleep? He's sleeping in the water of devastation. And there are violent waves in the devastation, and the bed is the cool body of Anantashesha. Now, any of these can, actually, person can be dead, normal person, normal human being can be dead, any of these things. But the Lord is peacefully sleeping, and all the universal planets are stationed within your abdomen. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that persons cannot think anything beyond their own capability, and they put their limits on the limits of the Supreme Lord, and thus prove themselves to be very foolish. They think, oh, I cannot do, how can the God do? I cannot keep my one wife happy. How Lord Krishna can keep 16,108 wives happy? Right? I cannot maintain my one EMI of my 1 BHK. How the Lord can have Dwarka filled with so many palaces. So what this means is that this means we are putting our limitations on the Supreme Lord. No, people are different. Their capacities are different. Just like yesterday, Mukesh Ambani, Nita Ambani, they attended this Trump inauguration. The ticket for that Trump inauguration was 8.5 crore rupees for 2 hours. And they happily paid it. Right? Now you cannot just वो 2 घंटे के लिए 17 crore who will pay? They pay. So what it is, one should not apply one's limitation over the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is very important. Such people are called as frog in the well, which we have very elaborately discussed previously when Brahmaji is describing other pastimes of the Lord. So they are surprised how Lord can sleep like this. We cannot sleep even with, our sleep is immediately disturbed. But Prabhupada says the insignificant living entities cannot understand this. Other thing Prabhupada says, within the Pacific Ocean, there are so many living entities who are very happily living. They are doing their entire family life in the devastating water of the ocean. If the shark and the timingalas, they can have their family life within the devastating water of the ocean, why not the Supreme Lord, who is infinitely greater? So this is prayer by Brahmaji. Text 21. यन्नाभिपद्मभवनादहम् आसमीड्य लोकत्रयोपकरणो यत अनुग्रहेण तस्मै नमस्त उदरस्थ भवाय योग निद्रावसान विकसत् नलिनीक्षणाय. Translation.
O object of my worship, I am born from the house of your lotus navel for the purpose of creating the universe by your mercy. All these planets of the universe were stationed within your transcendental abdomen while you were enjoying sleep. Now, your sleep having ended, your eyes are open like blossoming lotuses in the morning. Purport: Brahma is teaching us Brahma is teaching us the beginning of Archana regulations from morning 4 o'clock to night 10 o'clock. Early in the morning, the devotee has to rise from his bed and pray to the Lord. And there are other regulative principles for offering.
Prayerful.
Sorry, can somebody please continue reading?
For offering Mangal Arti early in the morning. Foolish non-devotees, not understanding the importance of Archana, criticize the regulative principles, but they have no eyes to see that the Lord also sleeps by his own will. The impersonal conception of the Supreme is so detrimental to the path of devotional service that it is very difficult to associate with the stubborn non-devotees who always think in terms of material conceptions. Impersonalists always think backwards. They think that because there is form in matter, spirit should be formless. Because in matter there is sleep, in spirit there cannot be sleep. And because the sleeping of the deity is accepted in Archana worship, the Archana is Maya. All these thoughts are basically material. To think either positively or negatively is still thinking materially. Knowledge accepted from the superior source of the Vedas is standard. Here in these verses of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, we find that Archana is recommended. Before Brahma took up the task of creation, he found the Lord sleeping on the serpent bed in the waves of the water of devastation. Therefore, sleeping exists in the internal potency of the Lord, and this is not denied by pure devotees of the Lord like Brahma and his disciplic succession. It is clearly said here that the Lord slept very happily within the violent waves of the water, manifesting thereby that he is able to do anything and everything by his transcendental will and not be hampered by any circumstances. The Mayavadi cannot think beyond this material experience, and thus he denies the Lord's ability to sleep within the water. His mistake is that he compares the Lord to himself, and that compassion is also a material thought. That comparison is also a material thought. The whole philosophy of the Mayavada school, based on not this, not that, neti neti, is basically material. Such thought cannot give one the chance to know the Supreme Personality of Godhead as he is.
Further, Brahmaji says, "Oh, my dear object of worship, I am born from your navel for the purpose of creating the universe. And when I was born, you were taking rest. Now, your sleep is ended, and your eyes are open like the blossoming lotuses in the morning. Please empower me." In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that here Brahmaji is teaching us about the Archana regulations. And Archana Vidhi begins from 4 o'clock in the morning till night 10 o'clock. That means right from the Mangal Arati up to the Shayan Darshan. This is called as Archana Vidhi. Early in the morning, devotee has to rise from his bed and pray to the Lord and wake up the Supreme Lord. So, the Lord is also sleeping and we wake up the Supreme Lord. And therefore, you will have this beautiful उत्तिष्ठ उत्तिष्ठ गोविंद उत्तिष्ठ गरुडध्वज उत्तिष्ठ कमलाकांत कैवल्यम मंगलम कुरु. Very beautiful prayers. Tava suprabhatam. So these suprabhatam prayers, uttishta uttishta, these prayers, this is where one is waking up the deity, right? So one gets up one wakes up before the deity is woken up, prepares himself, prepares nice bhoga for the Lord, wakes up the Lord, offers the bhoga, and this is how the Archana Vidhi begins. And here Brahmaji says, "My dear Lord, when I was born, you were taking rest, but now by your mercy you are awake, and your eyes are open like the blossoming of the lotus." Prabhupada says the impersonalist cannot understand this idea of waking up the Lord, right? They always think ulta. They will always think backward. What they will think? Because Maya, because matter has a form, spirit must be formless. Because form means limitation. For unlimited, it must be formless. For any relationship, ultimately either ends prematurely or it will end in frustration. Therefore, relationship means frustration. Therefore, no relationship. Therefore, any guna, it has to deteriorate. Therefore, the Lord must be nirguna. So, therefore, Prabhupada says, because the Mayavadis always think backward, they will think the Lord as Nirakar, Nirguna, and they will think matter versus spirit. And Prabhupada says this very, very thinking of positive and negative or matter versus spirit is material thinking. Okay. It is not matter versus spirit. If matter is like this, spirit cannot be like this. If spirit is like this, matter cannot be like this. No. Prabhupada says this thinking itself is a material thinking, and therefore they cannot understand this Archana Vidhi of the Lord. And therefore they cannot participate in this beautiful Bhagavad Bhakti of the Supreme Lord. And they will simply waste their life. We have, n number of times we have discussed this verse, klesho adhikatarastesham, and simply suffer by following the process of neti neti, not this, not that, aham brahmasmi, this and that, and simply waste their life. So the entire Mayavad process, because it is Mayavad, is based on Maya, and it concludes with Maya, that Mayavadi himself falling in the darkest region of Maya. The whole thing is material. And this will not give any chance of knowing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can be known only by devotional service. Bhaktyamam abhishanati yavan yaschasmi tatvatah. Text 22. सोऽयं समस्तजगतां सहृदेकमात्मा सत्त्वेन यत् मृगयते भगवान् भगेन तेनैव मे दृशमनुस्पृशस्ता तथाहं स्रक्ष्यामि पूर्ववदिदं प्रणतप्रियोऽसौ. Translation?
Right?
That
Supreme
this,
Lord. Please continue.
yes, Madhuri, go ahead. Let the Supreme Lord be merciful towards me. He is the one friend and soul of all living entities in the world, and he maintains all for their unlimited happiness by his 6 transcendental opulences. May he be merciful towards me so that I, as before, may be empowered with the introspection to create. For I am also one of the surrendered soul who are dear to the Lord. Purport: the Supreme Lord Purushottama or Sri Krishna is the maintainer of all in both the transcendental and material worlds. He is the life and friend of all because there is eternally natural affection and love between the living entities and the Lord. He is the one friend and well-wisher for all, and he is one without a second. The Lord maintains all the living entities everywhere by his 6 transcendental opulences, for which he is known as Bhagwan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Brahma prayed for his mercy so that he might be able to create the universal affairs, as he did before. Only by the Lord's causeless mercy could he create both material and spiritual personalities like Marichi and Narada, respectively. Brahma prayed to the Lord because he is very much dear to the surrendered soul. The surrendered soul knows nothing but the Lord, and therefore the Lord is very affectionate towards him. Hare Krishna.
Now Brahmaji says, let that Supreme Lord be merciful towards me. And who is that Supreme Lord? Soyam samasta jagatam sarideka atma. Saridaya, the Lord is the greatest friend and philosopher. Eka Atma is the super soul of all living entities. And he is Bhagavan Bhagena. He is the Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, possessor of all the opulences. And he says, I am also, let him may be merciful towards me and may be empowered. Let me be empowered by his mercy because I am also the surrendered soul who is very dear to the Supreme Lord. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that the Supreme Lord is maintainer of everyone. Right? Sarudeka Atma Samasta Jagatam. Maintainer of the both transcendental and the material worlds, and thus he is the life and friend of all the living entities. He is one without a second, Asama Urdhva, and he is very, very dear to every living entity. Therefore, it's called as Paramatma. Like every body has an Atma. He is Atma of the Atma, he is Paramatma. He is Bhagavan, possessor of all the opulences. Bhaga means opulences, the 6 opulences, Aishwaryasya Samagrasya. And therefore, Lord Brahma says, my dear Lord, I am also one of the living entity. I am also your child, just born from your navel, and I am having such a huge task of creation. Please, I am also very, very surrendered unto you. And just like you are surrendered souls are very dear to you, let me also be very dear to you. And please be affectionate towards me. So, Bhagavad Bhakti is about pleasing the Supreme Lord. Right. So here the grace, advancement, mercy is to be achieved, is to be achieved by one's submission, by one's humility, and it is not to be exploited or extracted or something like that. So here Brahmaji, all the such a amazing, the Prabhupada says the greatest personality within the universe, with so many of qualification in terms of his own age, lifespan, penance, austerity, the opulences, intelligence, and still he's praying to the Supreme Lord like a child praying to the mother. We will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna.
Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Leela Shuk Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Thank
Prabhupada.
you, Prabhupada. Thank you,
Thank you,
Prabhuji.
Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.